Voting doesn't do anything. You know that, right? I mean, they get to decide who wins and who loses. The powers that be yield everything to their will. There's nothing we can do about it. I used to speak these words fluently in the wake of any discussion about voting, and boy, was I wrong. After learning the truth and realizing how powerful it really is, I've personally taken a different approach to voting. I now know that the only weapon stronger is you and me. What a time to be alive. Hello and welcome to Econ Revolt. I am your host, Jamal, and today I want to talk to you about something. I want to discuss the Election Integrity Act of 2021, brought to you by the General Assembly of Georgia. It was once mentioned to me that voting was the most important right that we have as Americans, and I strongly disagreed. I didn't know what I didn't know. And while I still don't agree that it is the most important, it is up there. Last year's 2020 election was so critical to all Americans. Whether or not the person we wanted to claim victory or not, I think we all realized that there were some discrepancies in our democracy. There may be some room for improvement, and I'm sure that somewhere along the way there are practices that go unchecked, which is why I used to say the powers that be yield everything to their will. Some states and counties most certainly could improve their voting systems, but hey, voting machines do break and people make mistakes, right? But if you ask the majority of the American people, there ain't no room for mistakes. Ain't nobody got time for machines breaking down and people making mistakes. You would think with the amount of funds that is distributed in these elections, we'd have this figured out by now. I'm just a guy observing from the bleachers, or the voting poll. Just a few months after some historical events took place, i.e., Georgia turning blue for the first time since 1992, Georgia, along with other states and counties, decided they were going to strengthen their voting practices. Interesting. While I'm not against accountability, it seems we could probably use a little more of that these days. Let's take a look at this new bill that Georgia passed almost discreetly, or at least without any media coverage. Now, the intentions of this bill are to ensure voter confidence. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you the Election Integrity Act of 2021, brought to you by the General Assembly of Georgia. Now, immediately in Section 2, there's a reason why this is happening, and it reads: following the 2018 and 2020 elections, there was a significant lack of confidence in Georgia election systems, with many electors concerned about allegations of rampant voter suppression and many electors concerned about allegations of rampant voter fraud. Many Georgia election processes were challenged in court, including the subjective signature matching requirements by Georgians on all sides of the political spectrum before and after the 2020 general election. The stress of the 2020 elections, with a dramatic increase in absentee by mail ballots and pandemic restrictions, demonstrated where there were opportunities to update existing processes to reduce the burden on election officials and boost voter confidence. The changes made in this legislation in 2021 are designed to address the lack of elector confidence in the election system on all sides of the political spectrum, to reduce the burden on election officials, and to streamline the process of conducting elections in Georgia by promoting uniformity in voting. Several examples will help explain how these goals are achieved. Okay, so they're pretty much saying we see room for improvement and we're going to be the ones to do something about it. Move down a few lines and you will see how they are also addressing funding distribution. Some counties in 2020 received significant infusions of grant funding for election operations, while other counties received no such funds. Promoting uniformity in the distribution of funds to election operations will boost voter confidence and ensure that there is no political advantage conferred by preferring certain counties over others in the distribution of funds. So I have to agree with this. Making sure funds are evenly distributed throughout certain counties is ideal. I'm surprised they weren't already doing this. I guess it's a better late than never situation. You choose. Now, it seems they are also cracking down on how to verify absentee voting ballots. This is a long one. Any person applying for an absentee by mail ballot shall make application in writing on the form made available by Secretary of State. In order to confirm identity of the voter, such form shall require the elector to provide his or her name, date of birth, address as registered, address where the elector wishes the ballot to be mailed, and the number of his or her Georgia's driver's license or identification card, issued pursuant to Article 5 of Chapter 5 of Title 40. If such elector does not have a Georgia's driver's license or identification card issued pursuant to Article 5 of Chapter 5 of Title 40, the elector shall affirm this fact in the manner prescribed in the application, and the elector shall provide a copy of a form of identification listed in subsection C of Code Section 21-2417. The form made available by the Secretary of State shall include a space to affix a copy or electronic image of such identification. The Secretary of State shall develop a method to allow secure electronic transmission of such form. The application shall also include the identity of the primary, election, or runoff in which the elector wishes to vote, the name and relationship of the person requesting the ballot if other than the elector, and an oath for the elected or relative to write his or her usual signature with a pen and ink affirming that the elector is qualified Georgia elector and the facts presented on the application are true. Submitting false information on the application for an absentee ballot shall be a violation of Code Sections 21-2-560 and 21-2-571. Okay, so it aims at eliminating the possibility of duplicate ballots or fraudulent ballots, which also is another good idea. I don't really have too many gripes about this one either. In addition, it prohibits anyone who is not working for the Secretary of State's office from sending out another ballot to someone who may have already received it or may have already voted. Moving caution on this one if you are a part of an organization that mails out ballots. For every individual you send a duplicate ballot, you could be fined $100. That is if the county processes it. But still, be careful. So far, this new legislation doesn't seem unreasonable. Then what's the big idea? So why are activists and minority groups contesting this new law? Let's take a closer look. Section 20 in lines 774 and 778 read as follows. The superintendent of a county or the governing authority of a municipality shall have discretion to procure and provide portable or movable polling facilities of adequate size for any precinct. Oh, that's reasonable. Provided, however, that the buses and other readily movable facilities shall only be used in emergencies declared by the governor pursuant to Code Section 38-3-51 to supplement the capacity of the polling place where the emergency circumstance occurred. Interesting. So it seems like portable polling stations will only be used in the event of emergencies, if I'm reading this correctly. The fact that Fulton County had 24 different portable locations in last year's 2020 election raises some concerns. Why is this now a problem? Which I'm pretty sure played a big part in getting people to vote. With the General Assembly of Georgia having power over this and being able to decide when and where people can cast their vote, it raises a lot of concerns. Mind you, the General Assembly of Georgia that made this bill is all Republicans. Yeah, that's also a problem. They have also included verbiage that prohibits non-poll workers who are within 150 feet of the polling station from handing out water. Now, while I can understand there may be some health concerns, there may be something bigger here that we're not really seeing. Now, what are probably the most concerning parts of the bill are the fact that Republicans did this in a way that excluded outside participation from other governing bodies.
The governor is signing a bill that affects all Georgians. Why is he doing it in private, and why is he trying to keep elected officials who are representing us out of the process?
Exactly.
And it also appears that they ensured that the scale would tip in their favor. They signed this behind closed doors, and it doesn't help the divisive atmosphere of our nation. It's clear why the lawsuit was filed immediately after this bill was signed by the governor of Georgia, who, by the way, barely beat Stacey Abrams in the 2018 election for governor. And get this, Governor Kemp, he was the Secretary of State at the time, so he got to supervise his own election. Talk about judge, jury, and executioner. Now that's a heck of a way to exercise democracy. While under his leadership, there were more than 53,000 voter registrations that were put on hold, or pretty much not counted. And they were, wait for it, mostly comprised of African American voters. Yeah, that's uncomfortably conflicting. Her defeat only fueled her desire to help more Americans exercise their right. It's a right for all Americans, Stacey Abrams says, not some. Now, Stacey Abrams went on to register 800,000 voters, which played a huge part in turning Georgia from red to blue. Probably going to see her knocking on the door for governor in 2022. She's coming back for a rematch. Pretty sure of it. If you follow the trail, we can see why this Election Integrity Act was put into legislation. Sure, they may mean well, but they're going about it the wrong way. So what can you do with this information? Excuse my French, but you can fight like hell for your right to vote. Know the laws, know what's going on. Other states may adopt this legislation, so it is important to you. It does pertain to your local community. They may even use their model as a guide for their own. Be educated and don't just stand by while laws are being passed that literally challenge your rights. In other words, don't be like me and do nothing as if your voice isn't heard. Your voice is heard. The interest of our states is our concern. Now, I'll be the first to tell you, we are responsible for our own path. But on the contrary, I also believe that where we are geographically literally dictates how we live. Both are true. So invest in yourself, invest in each other. This is my investment to you. Econ Revolt.
Water's wet, but my water is alkaline. It's rocky round here and I move by creed. They said COVID's in the air, so watch me shoot the breeze. Midnight changing calendars, war steady going strong until you kill your challenger. My homie Juice got me drinking vegetables. As intellectuals, we work and drop collectibles. Bonds be feeling imperceptible. Nobody's born alone, black women are incredible. Time takes a lot but gives you lessons back.